I feel that we should start with basic safety, service, and justice guidelines, as these are the qualities that you have to commit to if you plan on doing any of this. If you plan on being a real-life superhero, commit to these values, and I'll explain them now. Safety. No matter what you're doing, ensure you have taken precautions to ensure your own safety before you even go outside so that you can ensure the safety of others. This also accounts for many different things. What training have you had if you're doing field work, other things like that. But we'll go into that when we go into field work, and every time we go through each of these types of work, we will go through safety, service, and justice with them. So, next is service. Remember that you're doing what you do for other people. You're not here to be respected or to be thanked even. You are, by all rights, a public servant without pay. Expect the worst responses from people, but hope for the best. This means even though you expect the best from people, you might not always get the best responses. For instance, say you do have the very rare occurrence of an actual burning building that you have a Nomex costume and you have a gas mask. Why not go in? And help a woman out. She might not be thankful. She might be a modern woman type who does not like the idea of a man saving her even if you saved her life. She might actually get angry at you or even threaten to sue you for saving her and straining an elbow of some kind. And that's the kind of thing that you need to expect, but what you need to hope for is just that she'll be safe. That's all you really need to hope for, because in the end, what you have to understand is that a live, angry woman is better than a dead, happy one. Though I wouldn't know why someone would be both dead and happy. Anyway, moving on to justice. Remember to study and follow the laws of your state and country in whatever it is you're doing, and also know that you're not doing this out of vengeance or hate. This applies mainly to field workers when it comes to justice. There's not really many laws you can break when it comes to just putting on an aesthetic costume and handing out food to people, like in charity, but essentially when it comes to field work, you're doing what you do because you stand for justice. You believe in your state's laws. And this is another big thing, because when it does come to field work and you are putting more physical presence, and you find someone who is a genuinely scary person and you're actually able to take them on in that, again, very rare occurrence, do you believe in the death penalty? And if you don't, and this is a very serious one that we need to cover when we're talking about justice, if you don't believe in the death penalty and your state believes in it, maybe field work isn't for you, because you have to believe in your state's laws. Now, personally, my state, Texas, it does believe in the death penalty, and I do not. I, under no circumstances, will ever allow a person to be killed, and I especially won't allow a serial killer to be killed, because in my own mind, what that means is that their moral battle, they've won it. They have proven to themselves, and thereby justifying in their own mind everything they've done, because in their mind, everyone deserved to die, and what you're doing when you execute them is you just prove that you're as bad as them, thus proving in that man's mind that he is right. And that loses the moral battle. And that's what we're fighting for. That's what the real-life superhero movement, I believe, does fight for, and that's morals and righteousness. Alright, now let's get into the types of work that you do as an RLSH. We can do that right now. So, first off, the type of field work we're going to cover is charity. Charity. To hand out food/water to the homeless and support charities and fundraisers. What does this mean? It means that everything you do to either raise money for a foundation or you do as patrols, you hand out food and water to people. Now, when we talk about safety, service, and justice on charity, well, obviously safety is important. Perhaps you could wear a padded suit, though I don't expect that you would get into many dangerous situations just handing out food to people. However, you might get heckled, and there's always the probability of having one of those just crazy people who believe that all RLSH are vigilantes no matter what. Okay. It's kind of laughable. I would also say have a child-friendly costume. If you're handing out food to people and you're being a nice guy, you don't really have to worry about protection. So you can make as extravagant or as vibrant a costume as you want. Be kid-friendly, that's another thing. If people are heckling you, joke along with them, because, it's fine. I mean, what you're doing is to draw attention to what you're doing. And by wearing a mask, you show that you don't care if people see your face, you just care about the deed, and that draws attention from you straight to the deed. And it doesn't even bother with who you are, it bothers with who this person is that you're helping, and it draws attention to that, and it draws attention to the situation rather than drawing attention to yourself. But you are the beacon to draw attention to the situation, and that's where the aesthetic costume comes into play. Now, how are we talking about safety? That's basically it. You don't really need a lot of protection when you're doing charity work, but again, padded suits, Kevlar vests. If you feel that you live in a dangerous neighborhood and you have a potential of being heckled or attacked, then I would recommend, obviously, armored suits are fine, but again, you want to try and do your best to be as friendly to people as you're a helping hand. And your only qualifications for this, fancy attire, food and water, and a want to do good. That's really all you really need. Okay, now let's get into private. So private work is basically not what you'd think it would be. You'd think that private work is a part of field work. It's not. This is a totally different thing that I'm talking about when I say private. When I say private work, I mean the guy who gave up that high-paying position at a law firm to work for Child Protective Services. I mean the guy who gave up his chance to be a actor making about $1 billion a year, like a very A-list actor, to be a self-defense coach for rape victims. Stuff like this. You are an RLSH, and these are the unsung RLSH. These are real-life superheroes who don't know that they're real-life superheroes. These are, in general, just selfless people. And you can do this yourself, and this is part of what I'm doing. I want to do private work as well as field work and charity work. I want to branch out into all three of these, and you can too, obviously, everyone can. And essentially, in private work, your only qualifications are a want to do good, a want to learn and a calling to do good. Because you're talking about learning an entire new skill set and job set just devoted to doing good and just devoted to helping people. And also you need to stick with it, okay? Especially if you're working with Child Protective Services, which again is what I've been trying to get into. Personally, I did grow up in a home sort of riddled with abuse, and I'm just not okay with with seeing kids basically molested or hurt. I can't stand the idea of that, and that's why I want to go into that. And you might have your own thing. You might go into firefighting or something like that. It doesn't pay a lot, but it does a lot. And that's basically the private work. 1,000 people in this world every day are real-life superheroes without knowing it. And that's part of living the RLSH lifestyle, even if they don't know they're doing it. Alright, now we'll get into the most serious part of being an RLSH, the most, the scariest part really, which is field work. We'll get into that right now. Okay, now when it comes to field work, I have to lay a heavy truth on you. If you do this wrong, you might die. Might sound like a threat, but there it is. There's the reality of it. You do this wrong, it could mean the difference between your life and your death. You don't do this on some whim or some dream. You prepare to do this. Now, part of this channel is devoted to metaphysics, but what I'm going to cover, the preparation for this is all physical. This is all in the material world, all right? And while metaphysics do sometimes definitely produce a advantage when it comes to physical combat, in reality, a big thing you want to do is avoid that. So this requires me to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to come back. I'm going to go get my notes on this specifically, and I'm going to come back on very specific guidelines for field work. There are about 1,000 of them, so this is part of the video is going to be a little bit longer. Okay, so first up is safety. At the very least, you have to wear a padded suit. That means like rubber with Kevlar or something like that. I would recommend an armored suit though, and that's actually what I'm building before I even go out again on field work, because I did spend 4 years as an RLSH, and if I wasn't lucky as I am, I probably would be dead. And that's because of some of the experiences that I have had, patrolling downtown Houston, and I was pretty young when I started doing it too, and that was not a smart thing to do. And I recognize that I was stupid, and I do not want you making my same mistakes. If you're a new RLSH and you're watching this and you are pretty young, maybe hold off until you're at least, 16 at minimum. Please don't get too into this already. Maybe wait until you're above legal age, hopefully. Alright, now personally, I'm building an armored suit. I have the schematics laid out. I know what I want to use, know what I need to use. You need to prepare for everything. I mean, when it comes to part 1 of safety, it's you. And part 1 has to be taken care of before you even walk out the door. You don't have time to put a piece of armor on, Something that was brought up actually before is a lot of people bring up stabs or collapsible batons for defense. How come no one's brought up a shield? Because I've often wanted to use a shield. It's just, I know that it's like big to carry around because it's hard to hide unless you had like your own special van for crime fighting. But at the same time, a shield would work great. I mean, it's a defensive weapon, I mean, obviously I'm not talking about Captain America throwing it, but I'm talking about, the shield bash helps out, and, SWAT teams use them, so they're not going out of style anytime soon. But at the same time, I want to go over basic materials with you to build a very, in my opinion, a very good armored suit. And the reason I want to go over a way to build a very good armored suit is it's also going to cover padded, because part of the suit is building from padded. So you want to start off with either cloth lined with carbon tubing, and what carbon tubing is, it's a very strong bulletproof source, but it's also very expensive. So you might want to substitute your base with either rubber, and I know you're saying like, what, rubber? No, rubber does partially defend from bullets. If you have it packed on tight enough, enough layers, you want to start off definitely with rubber. If you're working on a low budget, which I am, so I might have to substitute carbon tubing for that, just as a base for gunfire and certain things like that. Next up would be neoprene or Nomex. Neoprene or Nomex. And neoprene is a material that is, and after I share with you all the material information, I'm going to go into how I'm building my suit. But essentially, when it comes to different materials, you have Nomex for fireproofing. And you can search that up, Nomex, that's fireproof material. If you have a lot of house fires and wildfires in your neighborhood and you're worried about people getting caught in there, that's might be something you want to look into. If you have, if there are high reports of stabbing, neoprene is stab proof. Neoprene is puncture proof material. That's what it is. Then you want to go with, obviously there is Kevlar, which is another bulletproof material. It's another bulletproof vest. The downside, the more bulletproof you are, the harder it is to move, the heavier the vest is, obviously. It is packs of material on top of each other. It's not as thin as rubber, but I guarantee you a Kevlar vest is always worth the cash. So you can get a good deal on one. But I wouldn't recommend, going against quality for this. Next up would be taser-proof tech. There is some stuff that is available called Thor Shield tech. And Thor Shield tech is a vibrant sort of material that is designed solely to be taser-proof. Though I don't know why really you would need this. Tasers are lesser-known weapons of really people that you would be going against, and you wouldn't be picking fights with these people, and that's another thing we gotta cover. But you're not there to pick a fight. And obviously the next material I would want to go into is steel. Steel is good. Steel is very good, especially if you're making an armored suit. So what we're going to go over for me right now is how I'm building my suit and what I'm doing with that. Alright, so I'm going to go into this now. When it comes to the helmet, and the helmet is big for me, because I am, actually, you know what, let me throw up a picture of what it looks like. Alright, so what you just saw was a base example of what I'm trying to create. And I haven't even started production on this. I'm actually working on an aesthetic costume right now because I did realize that, I can start charity patrols earlier, but obviously there's a stigma, as I previously explained, with me doing field work in my own town. Now, for the helmet, what I'm going with is steel on top of Kevlar. And the reason I'm going with that is essentially what you have is... and what I want to say before any of this, I want a full rubber suit underneath. That's going to help, or carbon tubing, and carbon tubing is actually what I'm hoping for, because with that I can just put it on the Kevlar instead of on some opposite suit from the body for easier access. But essentially how that would work if you have steel on top of Kevlar on top of rubber or carbon tubing is you have the first part of the blow is absorbed by the steel, moves into the Kevlar, that's where the force comes in. But the difference between rubber and carbon tubing, rubber will still cause that internal, bruising that you really don't want. But carbon tubing would send out, it would opposite the force. And that would help out so much, and that's why you should spring for the carbon tubing if you have the money, but rubber is also a good substitute. But basically, you want to start off with your first layer underneath all of your stuff being carbon tubing or rubber. But with the helmet, I'm just going with Kevlar and steel. And essentially, the reason I'm going for that is just because your head's important. I'm not going with anything. It's not going to show the mouth. It's just going to have sort of like nightly sort of breathing holes in there. That part is going to be more chainmail. It is a partially Viking themed costume. I mean, the name is Ulfbert. As well, I'm also going with, again, if I have the choice, the body of the suit, that means covered from wrists to ankles, around the neck as well, carbon tubing. But if I can't afford carbon tubing at that time, I will go with rubber. Along with this, also obviously a Kevlar vest. And another thing that I'd want to add steel and Kevlar to, wrist guards, elbow guards, and knee guards. someone pulls a gun on you, the last thing you really want is, them to take a shot at your knees, or maybe if they have like a cleaver or some kind of, knife like that, you don't want them coming for your wrists, because, you don't want to lose a hand, basically. That's often been sort of a bit of a stigma of mine, is I'm like, okay, don't forget this. Also, when it comes to Kevlar, men, and this is a big one, don't forget the cup. Never forget the cup. You know why? Because nothing is funnier than seeing a grown man in a supersuit on the ground clutching their nuts in pain. Alright? Nothing is funnier than that. I will admit to that. It really is. It just is. But still, you want to avoid that situation. Because in reality, that can lead to, obviously violent attacks. And as I've said, when it comes to the leggings, most of it is going to be just carbon tubing, as well as the arms. Most of it is just going to be carbon tubing with some aesthetic stuff added in. And if I can't afford carbon tubing, then I'll go for a partially armored look with the pads, as well as adding in some Kevlar around the biceps and the muscle tendons to protect there. And same goes for the hamstrings around the thigh area. I definitely want to protect those with Kevlar, so add in some pads there, and the calves as well as adding in some Kevlar around there. Next up would be the boots, and the boots can basically, for me, they're just going to be probably combat boots that I paint blue. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's all that's going to be done for me, but essentially, I hope this has helped explain to you how to go through a basic suit build. I understand if I've been stuttering a bit. This is the first video we're doing, people. Remember that. So, yeah, that's essentially what we're going over when it comes to safety. As well, safety, pepper spray, tasers. Let's go over a list. Let me get my notes. Right here, I believe. Yes, right here. RLSH gear and utilities. One big thing you need: video camera, photo, anything you can really get, because there is no end to a legal battle when it comes to RLSH patrollers, and it comes to people accusing you of vigilantism and like attacking them when they did nothing wrong. Here's an issue: sunglasses with a video camera function. There are sunglasses you can get with that. You can get that basically at any real spystore.com. Really, sunglasses with a video camera, very useful. So you can record evidence of an action, of an attack, and you can say, like, basically on camera without them seeing your face, that, or without people knowing that you have a camera, knowing that, say, like, look, I'm intervening, this isn't me doing anything wrong, this is just me trying to break up a fight. And they can record everything you do and how you act and show that what you're doing is not illegal. What you're doing is not you're making sure that they're not attacking anyone. That's all you're trying to do. And I want to say that one of your first weapons, and this is getting more into service territory and opposite from safety, not opposite from safety, but separate from safety, is talking them down. Because you understand that you're not out here to pick a fight, you're here to keep the peace. And part of keeping the peace is just calming people down. And in that sense, calming people down it's very important. Just talk them down. Just try to understand the problem. Listen to them when they talk. They need someone to listen to. Oftentimes when people act out, especially in violence and rage, they really just need someone to talk to. And I think you'd rather be known as their crazy friend to them, who helped them, talk them down from a very bad situation, and got them, partially helped them to get the help they needed, like a psychiatrist or a psychologist, than being the guy who, punched them in the face repeatedly. I think you'd rather be that guy, you know? And next would be, and something that's brought up a lot, which is extendable, not hollow, metal stabs. And essentially what that is, and basically like batons, if you've seen probably daily cops use tonfa. This is basically an extendable version of that. Basically, the new Billy Club, it looks kind of like a tonfa. Well, not really new, they've been using it for a while, but, basically just an extendable version of a billy club, essentially. Or if you can find an actual extendable sort of bow staff, that would be nice. But you can also use wooden ones, and that's fine. Next would be a fingerprint kit. This is good for collecting evidence, and it doesn't go into wasted territory. What is wasted territory? Wasted territory is basically, unless you're rich and can afford your own private crime lab, yeah, you're not gonna be able to do the same thing that CSI guys are able to do. But you can get fingerprints, and fingerprints are a good start when it comes to convincing the police that you're on their side and getting evidence and going into the law. And again, this branches more into the justice part, but essentially as we go down here. Next would be storage. Storage, it basically means that you need space on your costume, and always account for this. And this is actually something I had not accounted for, which I need to, which is storage. And I'd probably use a utility belt. And sorry about that, the audio got kind of screwy for a second. I hope that doesn't cause any problems in the video. Alright, now next, obviously just going down a list. Pepper spray, flashers, flour bombs. It's basically wrapping baking flour in plastic wrap. Little saran wrap, really, twisting it, throwing it down. It makes a huge cloud. Sonic grenades. Those are very hard to get a hold of. Burner phone / cell phone. Very important for calling the police if a situation gets too out of hand. Small first aid kit. That's something you definitely need. Delivering first aid to others, basic first aid training. Okay. Transport, that's optional. On-foot patrols are effective as well. Handcuffs, that's also useful. And food supplies and water. Next would be, finding criminals. Police scanners, there's an app for that, literally, you can check. Google alerts as it happens, selecting as it happens. If you know a street that has a lot of crime on it in your neighborhood or in your city, and you want to keep an eye on it, that's something that you could do. Type in that address, the street address, and basically be like and select as it happens. You're gonna get everything as it happens. Next would be the sex offenders list. Why did I say that like it's a pride? The sex offenders list. That's not something you would want to be on. It's a very very bad group of people. Patrols on foot and patrols in car. Those are always good. Essentially, when you go on car patrols, it's usually just to stake out an area before an on-foot patrol. But honestly, I don't know. I don't do. I've never done car patrols before. Next would be crime in your city list. Basically, looking up history of where crimes usually happen in your city or the city that you're relocating to best follow those guidelines. So, as we come back to safety, service, justice, and I think that we've covered safety and service, as in service just basically means with this, you are not there to pick a fight. You are there to help people. You want to talk them down? That's your first weapon, is your voice. You talk them down. You are a friendly person. That's why I don't believe in all these dark costumes. Because they tend to show off a menacing message. You don't want to be menacing. You want to be the friend that they need right now, and then can forget about later because you don't have a face. You need to just be that for them right now. And that, in a lot of the situations, you'd be surprised how much it is just talking them down. It's very rare that you're going to run into a situation where you can actually have to get physical. Usually people back down, unless they're really angry and really drunk. And in that case, you can talk them down because they're drunk. And you essentially, if you treat a drunk person, you can treat them a lot like a baby, because that was the biggest problem I had when I was younger and I went on patrols downtown. It's just funny to me that I can always make that comparison. Drunk people are like giant babies. Anyway. But essentially, service, you are not there to pick a fight. You are there to be a helping hand and essentially an unpaid public servant. Comes to justice, follow the laws of the community. You do not commit assault, you commit self-defense. You do not, these are all very specific and important things. And then there's the issue of just wearing the mask and also saying, like, self-defense. This, again, justice, the law, it's where that video camera, sunglasses. If you have a video camera of any kind that you can turn on your body during patrols to transmit to a computer via Wi-Fi, if you have anything like that, use it. If you can take a picture of the situation, do that. If you have a pocket camera, just do that. Disposable video cameras work well. Remember to always call the cops if a situation gets too out of hand. You are just one person, or if you're going out with a group of people, you might not have this issue, but it seems like I'm running out of time right now. So I will end this video here. I hope this has helped in your starting up with being an RLSH, and I hope to do more RLSH code videos in the future.